Well, I'm guessing I'm live here, and this thing is in my way. Okay, good. Hey guys, so here it is, me, Court Ranowski, Yankee T News, coming at you on Monday, 11 May, 2026, the year of our Lord. Okay, um, so this is my regular weekly sort of summary newscast, and yep, we got some goodies. Let me tell you, but so it's going to be a little random, but that's okay. So, I mean, we've got a few things to say about Iran, Ukraine, gerrymandering. Oh my goodness, the stuff that's happening with gerrymandering, you wouldn't believe it. Let's see, what else have we got in the mix here? Always more politics. There's this really good essay on education that I came across, and I have to share that with you. Well, let's start with the big stuff here, which is my op-ed. Living in Connecticut, I'm not exactly a fan of the state of politics here in good old Connecticut. So the op-ed is the parasite unions of Connecticut. So the point is, anybody who knows anything about Connecticut politics knows the longest time, the unions, that's the labor unions, government unions, teacher unions, healthcare unions, they have all, in one way or another, controlled politics in this state, or at least controlled it in such a way that it meets their needs. And I'm just going to tell you one story that paints a picture, but the op-ed is on the website. Go to our website, YankeeTeaNews, and don't forget to like and subscribe wherever that is. So yes, the problem was, let's see, which story was I going to pick on? Oh, yes. Okay. Every so often you have to renegotiate labor contracts, right? So there's supposed to be a process of give and take, negotiation. None of that happens in Connecticut. The unions there are 60 labor contracts in the state of Connecticut. So the unions go back in their corner, write what they want, submit it to the legislature. Legislature looks it over and pretty much approves it. And then after it's approved, then the legislature tacks their pension plan onto the labor contract. So I don't know about you, but that sure sounds like conflict of interest. It reeks of it. But does it matter? No, it doesn't matter at all. Okay, but there it is. So that to me is just so insulting, but this is the reality, the political reality in Connecticut. And so just to make the point, if you have a union-dominated environment, don't be surprised if the economy is weak. Don't be surprised if business doesn't have a great standing in the area. Don't be surprised if you're finding that the state is falling behind the rest of the nation. Don't be surprised that the education system ain't doing all that well, although there are some claims to the contrary, but we won't get into those now. So yes, as the net effect is that Connecticut is a state that is it's really becoming a backwater of the nation's economy. The example I like to use is that economic growth in Connecticut does not keep up with the rest of the nation. So if the average GDP in the U.S. is 2%, Connecticut's going to be at about 1%. As I like to say, if you're driving in the car and your car is going 10 miles an hour and the other car is going 20 miles an hour, what is going to happen over time? The distance between the two will only grow greater and greater. Okay, so there are covers to this: wages, population growth, however minimal. These things can mislead you into thinking that things might be okay. You look around, people still go to restaurants or shopping, you still have other businesses around. It just obscures the fact that Connecticut is not doing as well as the rest of the nation. The fact that we're not doing as well as the rest of the nation should bear some connection to the level of economic activity you see here as opposed to other places. A friend of mine had lived here and then moved to North Carolina, couldn't stop talking about the construction activity going on in North Carolina compared to here. So in any event, that is the essence of my commentary on the parasite unions of Connecticut. They must go. We must have a right to work state, but we don't have the political organization to fight them in any significant way. So until then, the parasites rule. Meantime, let's see here. I want to jump to this one. Now, we've been spending a lot of time talking about what's happening in Iran, and most of it is about the conflict between Iran and the United States and Israel. Okay. This does get confusing, I have to say, but the part that is not getting is about as much. You see, in other words, you look at the conflict as something that's in front of you. Okay, that's sort of the face front aspect of what we understand Iran to be all about. But then you have things in the background that you may not be aware of so much, but which could turn out to be fairly significant. All right, so I am referring to an article which I put up the link on YankeeTeaNews if you want to go there and find it. And they're basically saying that there are many areas of Iran that are in serious drought. For example, the city of Tehran has 5 reservoirs, and it is said that these 5 reservoirs are at 20%. That's a drought. That's where you have to do rationing. You have to limit water use in various ways, and that's where they have been. And there's no sign that it's going to be changing anytime soon. So how does this bear on their dealing with the conflict with the United States and Israel? Makes it harder to do certain things, that's for sure. So that's just one little tidbit I wanted to share with you. Now, okay, also, you know, it was a standout. It was unusual. So what happened here? Putin suddenly says, you know what? I like this idea. Maybe we should have a Easter ceasefire. So it's my understanding that that was actually achieved. But then you have Putin also suggesting, well, there might be some end to the war. I can see that possibly happening. Well, he's never said anything like that before. So what's going on? You have to ask. But then, okay, well, then there's a supporting, I call it supporting news piece that comes out and says, according to new estimates, that some 325,000 soldiers, men who have been killed on the Russian side since the conflict began. All right. So others have cited bigger numbers, but now you have an article that's sort of pushing, saying, well, this is the fact of the situation. And I think it's, I don't know, does this shape any sort of negotiations going forward? I don't know, but I'm just reacting to things that I see in front of me. Yep, here we go. Let's see if there's anything else to add here. Yes. Let's see. Well, all right. So it's called Here We Go Again. All right. If I can just throw this in here. Putin added he would be willing to meet Zelensky only after the terms of a peace agreement had already been settled. That may not be so unusual, but okay, there you go. All right, now I just have to share this with you. Okay, some of you may be familiar with what is called the Southern Poverty Law Center. So this is a nonprofit that's been around since, I think, 1971. And it was devoted then as now to finding and fighting political extremism, quote, on both sides. Well, as we know, they've mutated over the years, and all they do is go after what they think is conservative extremism. But if anybody's followed the Southern Poverty Law Center, they have really lost their way. They've gone off the tracks by going after parents who go before school boards, grandmothers who are reciting the rosary in front of abortion centers, and deciding that such people are somehow terrorists. Pretty crazy. All right. Meantime, if you've been following this, you know the SPLC is in the middle of a big scandal because what had happened, they were paying employees, they were paying informants and others who were a part of these extremist organizations that they were decrying and using for fundraising purposes. Pretty crazy. So, I mean, the conclusion is what they were doing was propping up these organizations to enable them to keep on fundraising. And by the way, the Southern Poverty Law Center and their bank accounts have over $800 million. Do you think they really need to fundraise? There's something wrong with this picture, if I may say so myself. Okay, so what does that bring us to? The latest. You can see I'm shaking my head in disbelief. Okay. The poster child, okay, for everything that the SPLC hates. And let me see if I can just find this map here. Yeah. I'll get to the map. Is the KKK, okay, right? The worst kind of racist organization in America's history, the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan. Well, what did the SPLC just do the other day? They took the KKK off the list. That's right. They decided that the KKK isn't really a terrorist organization after all. Are you kidding me? Well, this would be the same KKK that they were funding. So I don't know. Maybe there's some policy change we don't know about. So it's 533 organizations that they have identified as being hate-oriented. I think that whole thing is specious. But there you go, taking the KKK off the list. So you lost your credibility because of this discovery about propping up these organizations. Now what happens to your credibility if you turn around and decide that, the KKK isn't that bad after all? Well, we think they do some community work. They're probably all right. Demented. But there you go. That's the SPLC. They took the KKK off their hate list. Is it really the same SPLC after all? All right. So this is, I don't know how well you can see this, but all right. So all those blotches on the map of America are where, quote, hate organizations are concentrated according to the SPLC. The part I find interesting is right here. Okay, that would be known as the Northeast. And what political creature do you find in the Northeast? That's right, liberals. So how odd it is that the area where the greatest concentration of liberals are, the fewest Republicans hold elected office, is where hate groups happen to be concentrated. I don't know. If I had the time, I think we'd go back and take a closer look, but no, we are moving on. So I just thought you'd like to know that. Much food additive stuff I got to get to. Oh my goodness. Okay, this here, I don't want to do this right now. Well, maybe I will. Darn it. Okay, so let me show you this molecule. Okay, that cute complex molecule. It has a name like all molecules do. And that name is 6-cetoxydihydrothioaspirane. Okay. Now, for anybody who's got a little chemistry background, the part you want to focus on is the last part, which is the aspirane, because you have all these defining terms, right? Aceto, oxy, dihydro. Okay, so those are some of the components that would have been tacked onto the thioaspirane molecule. So what about the thioaspirane molecule? It's a weird molecule that is said to have the aroma of both tea and tobacco. Well, it's a food additive, ladies and gentlemen. In various ways, it's used in various beverages. Let me see if I can get the lowdown on this here for you. Come on, where is it? But this is an entree now as I get to the juicy part here. Okay. It's been used in baked goods, instant coffee, condiments, relishes, and gravies. Tobacco companies use the chemical as well. It's an additive for tobacco. All right, but why do I bring up this weird molecule? Because it's part of a whole other world you and me need to learn about when it comes to food additives. Oh, I just home. Okay, DJ Ricky Smith. All right, I'll rewatch later. That's fine, dude. Okay, look. Here, let me put it up. Inventory of food contact substances. Okay, you may have heard of something called GRAS, which means generally regarded as safe. The quick history of GRAS was this food category for regulation purposes was created in the late 50s. And it was because that there were certain things like sugar and salt that really didn't require any kind of regulatory review. So they got thrown onto that list. But then there was mission creep in terms of the definitions that were allowed for what should be put on generally regarded as safe. It was the place that would give you the quickest pass through. All right, yeah, go ahead. You can use it in whatever product. Go ahead. So GRAS, shall we say, became popular. Okay, but food contact substances. All right, packaging, right? And then you have the surface of the packaging. You have what's called migration, compound migration. So if you have solvents that are on the surface of a stretchy plastic over some hamburger meat, those solvents are going to find their way into the hamburger meat, right? Okay. So this asparane molecule is one of many, and I do mean many compounds that are on this list, the food contact substance list. And see if I can just find the ding dong thing here, because we're not going to get into details because that's right, YankeeTeaNews. You go to that website and you'll find that I put up a link for this in our news links. I can't believe this stuff. Jesus. I'm just going to read some names, all right, just to make me feel better. Yeah, Mike, you bet microplastics is real. And it's not just bottled water is worse. It's, I don't want to pick on. No, anything where plastics are involved. I mean, the clothing I'm wearing, you have fire retardant chemicals that have been infused into this material, but those fire retardant chemicals, those brominated compounds get into my body as well, just like for everybody else. Anyway, acetylpyridine. All right, just leave a few names. I can't help myself. 2-acetyl-4-isopropyridine, a flavoring agent or adjuvant. Funny word, adjuvant. Acetylpyrazine, flavoring agent. What's another? Acetophenone, flavoring agent or adjuvant, solvent or vehicle. I read these things, and for all us fans of the Make America Healthy Again movement, what can you expect from something like this? All right, it's mind-bending. All right, so we have this general comment that there are compounds prohibited in the food codex for Europe, which are allowed in America. And the hint is we should copy the European one, get rid of all the substances that are not in the European one. I think there's some case to that. But then you discover a list like this that is so long. Oh my God, there are hundreds and hundreds of these things. And they're not talked of. They're talked of as contact. Let me see that thing again. Food contact substances, not food additives. It gets confusing. So I had to share it with you. And it's just another warning. Yeah, I'm a big fan of organic. And yes, when you go to the store, read the ingredients. And the shorter the list of ingredients, the healthier that's going to be for you. God's honest truth. So speaking of healthy, now we got another one. Look at this. Look at this. Ain't that something? Okay, now we got, what does it say here? 3 dozen, maybe more. These are retired medical professionals, ladies and gentlemen, and they are trying to call Trump mentally unfit. All right. Let me just go back for a minute to Bonhoeffer. I don't know if you remember Bonhoeffer, but his theory of stupidity. He made the point that there is no correlation whatsoever between a person's level of education and their capacity for stupidity. And I would say that we have a pretty good example here of guys who are supposed to be medical experts who want to say Trump is mentally unfit. Never examined him. They don't provide a basis. They don't offer a diagnosis. But, he should be removed with greatest urgency. So let me just bring it up. If you're following the news, how many times have we seen this now? In various forms. The nutty psychiatrist at Yale, some other person in the news, another group of so-called medical professionals, a bunch of psychiatrists. All these guys are saying, yeah, he's clearly mentally ill, he's got to go. And yeah, where were you guys when it was all about Joe Biden, okay? Nowhere to be found. So, crap on this, but they're at it again. And it's a part where I have to ask myself, if you are the opposing party and you don't like the person in office and you're going to spend all this time trying to find ways to get rid of them, and you're going to keep throwing the same spaghetti against the wall, I'd say this meets the definition of insanity, okay? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Sorry. Okay. Now, let me just go through this one. I thought this one was so interesting. It was sort of a collection of things. So it's about what happened in England recently. Let's just review. The way I like to explain it is you have a grassroots political organization, then you have your local politics, which becomes your grass tops, and then you have your higher level officials. These elections in England had to do with what we'll call the grass tops. So all the council members and all the local mayors and things like this. And Labor has been in charge, but they have made such a bollocks of immigration that now they find themselves on the receiving end of a lot of anger by the British, such that in this last election, my numbers are not quite right here. Let me see if I can find it. On the low end, I believe it was it 1,200? Yeah, at least Labor lost at least 1,200 seats at the local level, and Nigel Farage's Reform Party picked up a similar amount. And I think I brought this. Nothing is going to change until we get rid of Susan Beisowitz. The Ice Queen. Yes, the Ice Queen. We remember her. Well, it's going to take more than just getting rid of her. I mean, she's a girl who has a reputation of doing things in a rather questionable manner. But I'm not sure if that translates into getting rid of her. It's the others who have to go. In any event, okay, so Labor's route, MAGA in America, I'm thinking of gerrymandering, and Iran's slow surrender. So that's what the link is for this. It does its own sort of summary. I like the way the British write. I admit to having a bias there. Okay, but there's this other part I want. All right, so now I'm going to shift to another one. You may or may not remember that our lovely Mark Hamill of Star Wars fame did this post that was, again, obnoxious, stupid, thoughtless, and disrespectful, and you just keep going down the list. So what does it show? It shows the body of Donald Trump lying in a bed of flowers, suggesting, of course, that he was dead. Okay, Mark Hamill thought this was funny. Well, Mark, I got news for you. It wasn't funny one damn bit. Okay, and this article that's titled "The Left Has Normalized Assassination Talk." All right, articles like this have been coming out for a while, and it's because they continue to do this. So they're, again, Bonhoeffer theory of stupidity. People who are so hooked into some emotional thing that it makes them nuts. Actually, there's two things. You can be nuts and stupid. You can be smart and stupid, okay? And still end up in the same place. And So Again, we have the article there. I wish you would go and read this and understand that liberals are really out of control when it comes to this stuff. Now I'm going to shift gear because this is too much. I mean, I guess some of the news today is in a category by itself. Well, DJ, I'm live right now. Didn't you know that, boy? This here's a live stream. This is it. This is it. Because I'm working from a limited crew here of one, me. It seems that Eric got caught up in all kinds of things. So here I am, but that's okay with me. Gerrymandering, okay? A month ago, we were very concerned because the Democrats seem to have won with this referendum calling for the reorganization of the districts in Virginia, such that there would be 10 Democrat districts and 1 Republican district. Everybody was upset. Well, it's not even 24 hours later when, what happened here? Not 24 hours later when the federal, state court, I'm going to say, yeah, it was the state court, ruled that they couldn't do it. It was unconstitutional. Boy, were the Democrats pissed. Oh, my goodness. What are you going to do about this? All right. So what was the answer? You ready for the answer? The Democrats went into their back room and they came up with the following solution. We're going to the legislature, which is controlled by our fellow Democrats, and we're going to ask them to pass a law. And what that law will do is it will make immediate and retroactive the retirement of all the judges, all the justices in the state Supreme Court by making the mandatory retirement age below that of the youngest judge on the court, which was 54. You can't do that. It's called age discrimination, but they don't care. And the second point is that you cannot play favorites. You can't just pick some judges and decide that you're going to force mandatory early retirement on some, but not others. And again, the Democrats don't care, but this is what's going on in Virginia, and it's an expression of their sense of desperation. Okay. Now, in terms of all these projections that Republicans have been trying to make about how many seats could be picked up, we got, I think there's 2 in Louisiana. Let me have it backwards. 1 in Louisiana, 2 in Alabama, 1 in South Carolina, which is very interesting. Got to say something about that one. I want to say Indiana is another one. Okay, so these things give us something to work with. But the real problem here is we haven't really cleaned up the voter rolls. And that is a whole other discussion. All right. And I'll just say, I will not forget to get back to that one. And to which I add, by the way, parenthetically, expect more on this because a judge had ruled in the favor of the Department of Justice and the FBI that they don't have to hand those boxes back to the Fulton County Board of Elections. They can just go through it as they please and build their case against this, the Fulton County Board. Only problem is some of the people may get dragged into this and they're not going to like it. Of course, let me see. Who am I thinking of? Oh, that's right. Georgia Secretary of State, Mr. Raffensperger, and his boss, Mr. Kemp. Yeah, this could get real ugly in Georgia, let me tell you. Okay, but that's coming down the road. And by the way, hint, don't forget, Project Round River. We'll be hearing about that in July. Project Round River, just saying. Okay, so the whole gerrymandering clown show, right, is in many regards still evolving, right? But you have to look at that as just one layer of this whole discussion, because if the voter rolls become an issue, and if we're removed, look at this, if I may say so. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, some number of illegal aliens have found their way onto voter rolls around the country. It is true. Well, if they ain't around, I guess they can't vote. But you have to make sure you got them off the rolls in the first place. Won't be easy. It won't be easy. But anyway, now, this one's a little weird. So going back to England again and the blowout for the Labour Party, what it says here is over 100 labor politicians call on Prime Minister Starmer to resign after election disaster. I'm having a problem with this. Labor lost around 1,200 seats, but you only have 100 labor politicians calling for his resignation. Can somebody explain that to me? It's like they don't care. They see something else. I don't understand. But, okay, so Starmer's under pressure. Good. Is he going to resign? No. So it's going to take a lot more pressure on him. All right, so it's called stay tuned as far as that's concerned. Let's see now. Tina Peters. I need to bring up Tina Peters again. Every week, it's the same thing. I'm reminding people that she is still in prison, unjustly so. Unjustly so. A woman well into her 70s who is being treated like a common criminal when all she did was obey the law, and the state of Colorado violated the law. But then they turn around and trump up charges against her so they could put her in jail, even though they belong in jail. That's Colorado for you in a nutshell. And unfortunately, this miscarriage of justice continues to this very day. There was a little muttering from Governor Polis that he might do something, but that fat boy went back to sleep. That's all I got to say. That fat boy went back to sleep. All right, so let me just make sure I'm not missing anything here. I got all that. By the way, this thing I just mentioned about the Southern Poverty Law Center, well, how do you feel about the KKK? Oh, you love the, okay, then I'm asking the wrong person. Okay, sorry. All right, as far as I'm concerned, saving the best for last here. Here's the article. Progressivism is incompatible with classical learning. Now, I have a thing about education. I'm all for education, and I am not your friend when it comes to indoctrination. Now, that said, there is a philosophical argument to be made that there are some sets of ideas that you have to hold on to as true with a minimum of examination. I don't entirely buy that, but the point is you start with a foundation, and then you build from there, all right, when it comes to education. So this article, of course, is suggesting that because, you have a narrower set of ideas, let's put it this way, progressivism is less inclined to examine the truth or falsity of its beliefs, all right? They put a higher value on indoctrination and propaganda than someone who has gone through classical learning does. So let me just give you a small and easy example. AOC, oh my God, I had to bring her up, I'm sorry. But AOC was carrying on about how what we see happening in America, especially with ICE, is like apartheid or apartheid, okay? So this was the system of racial discrimination that existed in South Africa for decades, okay? Truly a horrible system, truly to be reviled, all right?
Thank you.
This stupid woman who happens to be in Congress, who's trying to suggest that what ICE is doing is somehow related to that, just shows how ignorant she really is. So what is the nature of this ignorance, though? I'm glad I asked the question. Check out Ramen Real Talk. Yes. Oh, thank you for that. I'm going to check that out. Hell yeah. So there's a logical fallacy. It's called predicate reasoning. Predicate reasoning is where you look at two things, and because they have similar appearances, you think they're the same. Not true. Not true at all. But that's what she's done. She sees the aggressive, if you will, approaches that ICE sometimes has to take to arresting people who are evading capture and who are violent by nature. And she thinks that somehow that's like apartheid. No, it's not. But Okay, you could call it inflammatory rhetoric on her part. Yeah, we can go there. But she's also trying to convey to her believers and followers that she knows what she's talking about, that she sees something with great insight. That this is just like those racial people in South Africa who conducted apartheid. Not even close, dear. Not even close. So that is my thought for the night. I have gone through quite a few things here. And again, I encourage you to go to our website, YankeeTeaNews. I encourage you to like and subscribe our channel. And hopefully we'll be on this. So just, if you want to stick around later, Jason might be checking in. I might try to get on, but I want to say from here in the Parkway Diner, internet access has been a little dicey. Yes. And then I got something totally off the wall for you, DJ Ricky. You mentioned, of course, microplastics. Totally unrelated. But are you aware that there are over 100 million tiny iron particles in the human brain? So for all us biologists out there who like to wonder about things, how birds can use the magnetic field of the earth to navigate themselves, the idea that brains have a lot of tiny little magnetical particles that might explain a few things. Hopefully, we have microplastics in the brain. It's all very worrisome. Anyway, I'm going on too much here. All right, maybe around 9 is what Jason is thinking of. That's what we usually do. He works long days. He needs some time to chill when he gets home. And then by 9 o'clock, he's usually ready to get on. So that's about when we're going to go at this again. And I'm just trying to think. Oh, yes. So I know that what Jason and I are going to want to talk about is the state convention in Connecticut that's coming up. You cannot tell me there's no drama on this one. Oh, my goodness. Oh, yes. I'll just 3 quick ones, then I'm out of here. Aaron Smith, who is Aaron Stewart. What am I saying? Aaron Stewart, who's considered the leading candidate for the Republican nomination, has been getting into a little hot water. It seems that she had a tax collector while she was the mayor of New Britain who was carrying out a few too many favors for folks in the town. Did she know about how the tax collector might have been bending and breaking the law? This is what we're trying to find out. Then we have that she applied for a pension. After 12 years in office, when you can't apply until you've been in for 20 years. And she says, oh, I didn't know that. So you didn't know this for 12 years. Makes me think that you're not paying attention to a lot of things, which means maybe you're not making such good executive decisions for the town. Just a thought. Then, what was the other one? Oh, God, yes, the credit card. These things get into such trouble. So the town of New Britain issued a credit card where town employees were able to make purchases for office supplies. That's it. Any non-business thing, no, you cannot use this business card. The problem is it appears there's about $200,000 worth over the last 10, 12 years, $200,000 worth of personal expenses that's on Aaron's card. Yes, toys for the kids, clothes, other good things. Now, if she tried to pay for it out of campaign funds, now it gets even dicier. So, again, this is all preliminary. So this qualifies as alleged. We have no idea if any of this is true. We just know that this stuff is floating. And boys, it's showing up at quite the time here. What is this now? 3 days before the state convention? I don't know. And the problem is that Aaron Stewart has really not done a good job of defending herself. She's made a few comments. She's been dismissive. I got news for you, Aaron. Not good enough. All right, I'm going to leave it right there, guys. And hopefully I'll hook up with Jason around 9. All right, later.